You're listening to the Unapologetically Alive podcast, episode number 2. Why did I become an entrepreneur? I get this question a lot, and really it's a combination of reasons, which I'll be sharing throughout this episode. In episode 1, I shared with you how my dad was a self-employed CPA. He worked extremely long hours during tax season, but then when April 15th passed, he spent most of the remaining 6 months of the year fly fishing and traveling with my mom, sister, and I. As a result of the career lifestyle my dad created, our family had the freedom to travel and create memories together. This freedom based lifestyle I grew up seeing my parents live would and continues to be the greatest inspiration for me when it came to following my own path versus the prescribed 40-40-40 career path, which is to work 40 hours a week or more for 40 years to retire on only 40% of your salary. Curious to hear more? Pour that second cup of coffee or a glass of wine and we'll dive right in.
You're listening to the Unapologetically Alive podcast. Lifestyle empowerment coach Tonya Noland will help you discover how you can start living more boldly, authentically, and without regrets by building a lifestyle based around your passions and purpose. It's time to define what success means to you, push fear aside, and celebrate who you really are by being unapologetically you.
My dad became his own boss and opened his CPA practice while I was still a really little kid. He'd been working for a local bank in Napa where he'd worked year around. During my childhood days, my dad had a passion for playing golf, and honestly, he was really good. But he knew that pursuing golf would take more of his time away from his family, so he left golf behind and took up another passion, fly fishing. Since my dad had always wanted to be an environmental activist, being a CPA full time for another company wasn't his cup of tea. I mean, who can blame him? Working 40 plus hours a week as a CPA at a bank wasn't what he wanted to do long term. So he decided to strike out on his own and start up his own business. Enter lifestyle design mentality. I'll be the first to tell you that my parents were my first life coaches. Even as a young child, seeing my dad go from working for someone else to launching his own CPA practice so we as a family could have the majority of the year to spend time traveling and creating memories together did not go unnoticed. My dad shifting his career from being an employee to an entrepreneur forever changed our dynamic as a family and freed us up to travel and spend weeks or months at a time on road trips across Oregon, Washington, Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, Canada, and even Hawaii. Sounds pretty awesome, right? I couldn't agree more, which is why these early life experiences so drastically impacted my ideology on the life I wanted to create for myself. Before I continue on with my story, I have a few questions for you. Whether you've been following me on my blog or social media for years or just recently, I feel like we kind of know each other. You're here listening to this podcast, so we must have a few things in common. But here's the thing. If you find yourself nodding and agreeing with these questions, then we're definitely kindred spirits. And this particular episode is for you. As I ask you these questions, I want you to write out your answers down on paper. Yes, take out a sheet of paper and put pen to it so you can look back and reflect later on. Question number 1. I want you to ask yourself, do you feel trapped in your job or career path? Do you feel you had to choose a career before you really had a chance to get to know yourself? Do you want to pursue your passions but feel scared or unsure of how to shift and make them a reality? Have you found yourself following the crowd your entire life because that was the safest thing to do? Do you feel there is more waiting for you in life than you've accomplished so far? I know you can't see it, but I'm literally over here raising my hand wildly because I've felt the same way before embarking on my first experience as an entrepreneur back in 2011. And to be honest, asking and answering these questions over and over is what ultimately convinced me to put myself out there and do something I never thought I would do: become an entrepreneur. I knew it was time to take a chance on myself when I realized my happiness was more important than working 40 unenjoyable hours a week, living paycheck to paycheck, and counting down the days or hours to the weekend. I mean, come on, we all have been guilty of this. I graduated college during the peak of the recession and quickly realized the economy did not have my back. In the span of 5 years, I was laid off multiple times. Each experience left me feeling more helpless, invaluable, and disposable. Yet I continued applying and interviewing for jobs out of fear. I didn't necessarily want the jobs I was applying for, but I didn't know what else to do. I was 25 and I already felt like a fraud. I felt like I had to continually recreate myself to fit the employee mold, whether that was the real me or not. Spoiler alert, it wasn't working. I wasn't succeeding playing this role. I was over the day to day grind. I was over feeling disposable. I was done building everyone else's future and not my own. It was time to create my own definition of what success meant to me. As I've mentioned on my blog, my upbringing was very unconventional. My parents had a very unique vision for how they wanted their lives to look. The choices and sacrifices my parents made allowed us as a family the freedom to travel and create memories together. Even though I went the traditional college route, believing I needed to get a good education so I could get a good job, it wasn't until my mid-20s that I fully acknowledged that that was not going to happen for me. And this may not be true for everyone, but for me, there would never be a job that was good enough for my aspirations or my vision for how I wanted to live. The freedom-based lifestyle my parents instilled in me forever shaped the standards for what I wanted and how I wanted to experience my life. So I had to create a job for myself, and that, my friends, is the honest truth. Like you, I know what it feels like to be pigeonholed into picking a career before you've had a true chance to experience your life and learn about yourself. It's crazy to me that society expects us to come out of college knowing exactly what we want to pursue, yet we are young and mostly inexperienced. We barely know ourselves. We've only just begun to understand the world at large, and we don't fully understand where our passions lie and what our purpose may be. It very well could have taken me 20 plus years of experiencing frustrations, financial struggles, bankruptcy, self doubt, horrible bosses, failing again, and getting back up again and again to learn all these lessons. Luckily, it didn't. I kept my eye on the light at the end of the tunnel and continued pursuing my dreams, despite what everybody else said I should do. After that fifth layoff, I understood that my passion was being my own boss. I don't know about you, but I feel like we graduate college with so much naive confidence. With diploma in hand, we make our first goal, get a job, and make money. For many of us, myself included, that goal can be crushed again and again. So we have to let go of fear of failure and confidently make a new goal. When I started my first business, I was met with resistance and skepticism rather than support. I felt like I had zero credibility. I suffered from imposter syndrome. After all, I'd been laid off multiple times, was racking up thousands of dollars in debt trying to grow and build my business while making ends meet, paying rent, feeding myself, and paying bills. I was barely getting by on unemployment benefits and credit cards after my third time being laid off. I was growing more and more disheartened and disenchanted, applying to job after job, fully embracing the possibility I could be laid off at a moment's notice. I was losing faith in the American dream. By age 27, I made a new goal for myself. I was going to say goodbye to the 40-40-40 plan, working 40 hours a week for the next 40 years, only to retire on 40% of my income. And hello, new goal based on enjoying life and my own set of values. This was when I discovered what it meant to be a lifestyle designer, someone who creates a lifestyle and career that are aligned with what is important to them. It was a turning point because not only was it the most liberating time of my life, but also the most terrifying. For the first time, I fully assumed responsibility for my decisions and the direction of my life. I allowed myself to identify, feel, and embrace where my values and priorities lay. This was my chance to be the CEO of me. This powerful realization is what began attracting the right people, situations, and resources into my life that would ultimately help me advance my business, create true financial freedom, and propel me into a new career as a lifestyle coach. Once you make the big leap into being your own boss, you're going to need a cheer squad. I know this sounds cheesy, but you will need a crew to celebrate your victories and urge you on when you get defeated. Much like the rest of this process, it's DIY and it starts with you. If you're not rooting for you, then who is? Yes, your friends and family will be too, but the cheering section for you has to start with you. Over the span of 5 years, I became my own cheerleader, advocating for myself with reckless abandon. I read countless personal development books, attended workshops, seminars, received my coaching certification through the John Maxwell team, and reinvested the money I did make back into my own self-education so I could work with mentors and leaders in the life coaching industry. I even hired a professional success coach to work with me one-on-one. When I suffered setbacks, I gave myself pep talks. After all, in my experiences, nothing worth having happens overnight. My struggles became my greatest teachers. My breakthroughs continuously pushed me beyond my comfort zone because I chose myself over my circumstances, and my mess eventually became my message. Today, I am living proof that your dreams truly are possible if you make the decision to step outside your comfort zone. As I've said before, the purpose of this podcast is to inspire and empower you to push boundaries. It's my honor to share my experiences with you, for better or worse, to inspire you, guide you, and help free you from the life you don't want. It's my job to encourage you to take a chance on yourself. Maybe no one has ever believed in you or told you all of this was possible. In the words of Walt Disney, if you dream it, you can do it. I challenge you today to allow yourself to dream. It's never too soon or too late. I'm here to help you create your message, shift your mentality, think outside the 40-40-40 plan. Are you ready to experience what it feels like to play in your own life, even break a few rules along the way? I'm over here raising my hand with you. Together, we can create your own definition of success. It's time to leave your excuses at the door. Don't hesitate to be bold and break the mold in your own life. With that, I look forward to having you tune in with me again for more bold living content.
Thanks for tuning in to the Unapologetically Alive podcast. Did you enjoy this show? If so, subscribe and share it with your friends and leave a review on iTunes. For more great resources to help you start living more boldly that Tonya only shares in email, head over to TonyaNolan.com and subscribe for email updates. Until next time, be bold, break the mold, and keep on being unapologetically you.